Nigerians are still reacting to the sack of Jim Obazi as Executive Secretary of the Financial Reporting Council by President Muhammadu Buhari following his implementation of the FRC regulation that mandates heads of religious organizations to step aside either after leading their congregation for 20 years in office or after attaining the age of 70. Political correspondent Ayodele Uzubakun spoke to senior Christian and Muslim clerics on recent attempts to regulate the activities of non-profit organizations in Nigeria.
In 2012, ISWA Executive Secretary of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, FRC, Mr. Jim Osanyode Obazi, announced that the FRC had designed an accounting system for churches, mosques, and other not-for-profit organizations that will compel them to report their financial transactions periodically from 2013. To achieve this objective, he unveiled the Statement of Account Standards SAS 32, which makes transparency by churches, mosques, and NGOs mandatory. In compliance to the regulation that mandates heads of religious organizations to step aside after leading their congregation for 20 years, Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye last Saturday shocked Christians across the country when he announced at the annual Thanksgiving service of the church that he has stepped down as its general overseer.
For goodness sake, the internal structure of the church, what does the government have to do with it?
Mosques and NGOs mandatory. In compliance to the regulation that mandates heads of religious organizations to step aside after leading their congregation for 20 years, Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye last Saturday shocked Christians across the country when he announced at the annual Thanksgiving service of the church that he has stepped down as its general overseer.
For goodness sake, the internal structure of the church, what does the government have to do with it? You don't do that. You don't meddle with the internal structuring. Who is the pastor and how? Because every church has its own regulations, has its own way of conducting its affairs. Okay, if you are asking pastors that they say, here you have, that you can't be more than 10 years or 20 years, so are you going to ask the Sultan to abdicate his throne?
It was announced.
Presidential spokesman Femi Adesina last Monday in a statement announced the removal of Obazi and reconstitution of the FRC board. We asked some clergymen if the church should be regulated by government as attempted by the FRC.
If the institution was strong enough, the laws are strong enough, definitely it won't be sacked just like that. But as for me, I just say the president was maybe too hasty to sack. He should have listened to wise counsels for some time and let them not give the impression that you are in government today at the whims and caprices of, there's law backing hiring and firing. And so personally, I believe the president, maybe there is iron hand in this one.
Nothing concerned them about the issue of the church at all, and mosque. So if they pass the law or they have the decree, by now they must go and remove that law from their gazette, from their law, because the churches and mosques, they pray for the government, for for Nigeria to have peace.
Every church applies under Part C to the Companies and Allied Matters Commission and receives a certificate of incorporation, which allows them to actually operate as a church and receive tithes, offerings, etc., and other income, donations from the public. And that gives the government a responsibility, not just a right, but a responsibility to protect members of the public from unscrupulous people or pastors, so that they can ensure that the funds raised by a church are used for the purposes that have been stated in their constitution and so on and so forth.
Some Pentecostal and Orthodox churches in Nigeria run primary, secondary, and tertiary schools, making huge turnover, while their members cannot afford to pay the huge fees such schools demand. How can government curtail the excesses of some of these churches through monitoring of their finances?
Not all incomes in church are taxable incomes. But when you use non-taxable income to be involved in taxable ventures, then it should be taxed. Books, universities, businesses, enterprises, houses, real estate. There are churches that have all these things. I feel churches should not be involved in, churches should be able to divide and draw the line. No church should be involved in taxable ventures and national pay taxes. Like if schools are taxable ventures, they should pay taxes. If for non-profit, but if you use non-profit income to do some taxable ventures, I suppose those taxable ventures should be clearly distinguished from the church.
For this Muslim cleric, it's a different ball game. The regulations of FRC suits them.
When you have schools, university and so forth, you're saying we are just religious organization, leave us, is not done. What you're going to have in future is that Dangote will set up a mosque and bring Dangote flour, Dangote sugar and say, I run a mosque too. And government will not collect tax. So they are looking at that in future, people will start running under religion to run heavy businesses without doing things the way the law wants them to do. So that's what that law is out to, not really to punish religious organizations, but to help them to do what is right.
The Corporate Governance Code issued by the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria has been suspended pending a detailed review. The move has also gotten the backing of the House of Representatives, while some Christians applauded the removal of Jim Obaze. Other Nigerians faulted the move, accusing the federal government of playing to the gallery and showing by the suspension of the regulation that it is not interested in building strong institutions that protect the fidelity of the nation's laws. Ayodele Zubaku, TVC News, Lagos.